going on, everybody? As we've been going through the year with all our special interviews and special guests that we've had, whether it's Sam Stackhouse, Mr. Kennedy, the list goes on and on, Sam Houston, even, we have brought into our next level of our interviewing chapter. And this is one that actually really hits home for me because it's something I was watching earlier this morning. It's something I watch every day, honestly, and it's not even trying to BS. I watch this man religiously. I watch all of his colleagues religiously. Ladies and gentlemen, the channel manager, also one of the channel hosts within What Culture Pro Wrestling, a damn great man. And Andy H. Murray, the H stands for holy shit, he's actually here with us. Andy, welcome to the party, man.
Damn, man, what an introduction. I feel like I should employ you to introduce me like that every single day. That was awesome.
My emails are always open for you, that you've seen, no problem.
Very, very flattering, man. I'm not worthy of all those kind words, but thank you so much for having me. I'm always flattered to be invited to do other things in the wrestling space. So this is awesome.
It's such a wonderful kind of thing to see how this has transitioned even through the pandemic era to where it is now, where even just a couple years ago during the pandemic, I was sitting here watching people like yourself and Simon Miller and everybody doing their recordings from home and trying to see the transitions of natural work life to COVID home life to getting back into work life. So we'll start with that because I'm curious for you kind of guiding the ship with everything. How has that transition been going from switching back to fourth and then back again?
Oh, wow. Yeah, COVID was understandably extremely rough when it kicked in because I think part of why what we do works is the natural chemistry and the interactions between the hosts. We're sitting there in a studio together a lot of the time and we're bouncing back and forth. And obviously it can be quite difficult to replicate that, or so we thought, through a computer screen. But if the past couple of years have taught us anything, it's the kind of wider spread of calls just like this, where we're on completely different sides of the worlds, and yet we're here, we're having a conversation, we're making content. It really isn't as difficult as first thought. I think, there's no such thing as a positive to come out of COVID and the pandemic and all of that. But if there is something close to it, it's that it has kind of advanced these recording methods a little bit, and it's made platforms like the one we're using today so widespread and so easy to use and so accessible.
Damn, British Wi-Fi is making so we lag a little bit. Uh-oh, we've got him paused. It's okay. Technical difficulties. We'll have the little flag that comes up.
People.
Oh, so there he is.
Oh, did I vanish?
You just froze for a minute, so I'm going to have like the little pop-up screen that says technical difficulties. We're good.
Solid. Do I need to repeat anything, or will I just keep rolling?
You'll just keep rolling. I don't mind a bit.
Super. So yeah, we went from, suddenly in 2020, we went from an office of 20 to 30 people to sitting in our own homes alone. And we lost the camaraderie, we lost the atmosphere, we lost the bouncing ideas back and forth, just the whole deal. We compensated for that. Me and Adam do the daily news Monday to Friday. We compensated for that by just calling each other for 20 minutes at the start and, having a chat. How's your day going? How are you coping? All of this stuff. But actually, transitioning back to office life and in-person life and post-pandemic, if you will, was probably even stranger, to be honest with you, because I think across those 2 years or so, a lot of people, kind of realized that maybe they prefer working from home, or maybe they prefer methods like this and all of that. We're quite lucky on the wrestling team in that pretty much everybody is now back in the office, and we all prefer that, and that's great. But yeah, it's been a strange few years for sure. But now we're in a very privileged position where we have our in-office staff, but we also have, people like Gareth Morgan and Simon Miller and Cy White, who are all remote, and we have remote video editors and stuff, and we can all collaborate through the magic of the internet. It's forced so many platforms to adapt, but it has opened the door for so many. I mean, anyone really, if they put the work in and they have a good idea and they make the connections, can make content now, and I think that's really awesome. Yeah. It's made it so accessible and fun, and it's great to just hop on and chat to people.
Yeah, because it makes it such just a, like you were saying earlier, with you being in the UK, me being in America, these conversations wouldn't have been able to be as easy as we thought of a few years back. So having the transition just in technology alone has just blown the doors off of what we've been able to do. Not even just because everybody and their brother can have a podcast now, but it also just allows the network and the ideology of being a wrestling fan to expand that much more exponentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think platforms like Zoom, were nowhere near as widespread, obviously, before we were all forced into digital
Not at all.
conversations. Not in the slightest. And I think that those companies probably, panicked a little bit when this started and everyone was downloading their platform and they had to make it more robust and they had to beef the security up and all of that stuff. But now that we're 2 or 3 years down the line, yeah, it's really awesome. And I know that, like, if I have to take a couple of days off and work from home or whatever, I can just dial in and we can replicate the same thing. And yeah, it's the coolest thing in the world. I'm glad we fast forwarded to the point where we no longer have to be in the same room all the time to make what we want to make.
Oh man, oh, even as just husband and wife life, it makes it so much easier. My wife's upstairs right now watching like Schitt's Creek. I think right now I can hear in the background as we're sitting here having this conversation. But now with all the technology that has just expanded, not even just in the Corona and the COVID era, but you and I are almost within the same age group. So we've gotten to see the Nintendo development and all the other things. But even just within pro wrestling, with you being on that side of the pond, I have to ask, let's rewind the clock. What got you into pro wrestling? What were the wrestlers that were like, you know what? I want to start really enjoying this and find out more.
Yeah, it sure as hell wasn't the internet, because I grew up in the 56K modem era, which
Right here, buddy. Yep.
hey, as people of our age group know, was not great for downloading wrestling shows and
Oh
streaming
no.
video, non-existent. So like I got into wrestling in the early 90s. I was born in 1987, and
Same.
yeah, whoa, perfect. What a great year, vintage. Um, so the first show I ever watched, at least the first show that I can remember watching. I'm sure my dad had, the old British wrestling on television when I was even younger. But the 1992 Royal Rumble was the first show I ever watched. It was the first VHS tape I ever watched. And of course, I was 5 years old, so I wasn't exactly comprehending what I was watching, but I was hooked straight away. I mean, it's a great show to start with. Of course, it's like the most star-studded Royal Rumble
It
maybe
really is.
ever, even to this day. It's crazy, and it really stuck with me. The thing that connected with me the most, it wasn't even like Ric Flair's big night or Hulk Hogan, throwing that strop at the end of the match, or any of or Randy Savage. Name a person. It wasn't any of those guys. It was Roddy Piper, who wrestled the Mountie in, I think, the second match on the card, Intercontinental title match, and it's a nothing match. It's like 5 minutes long. It's fun. The Mountie's the heel. He's got the shock stick, all of
Oh
that.
yeah.
Piper wins. It's a good time. But at that age, just seeing somebody who was playing a Scottish person on television, I was like, that guy's just like me. Of course, he's Canadian and maybe like 10% Scottish,
Shh.
but we didn't learn that until later in life. So that was where I got my connection from. And there, growing up, I was kind of at the mercy of my mom and dad's wallet. Really, it was like, oh, here's a VHS of a random WrestleMania. Here's a SummerSlam. Here's a Survivor Series. It was like sporadic tapes here and there, just whenever they could pick one up. But I would play the hell out of them. I'm pretty sure I must have ran at least 4 or 5 of my old tapes just into complete disuse. Just burned them all the way out. So that was my life wrestling wise until about 1997 or 1998, which is when we got Sky in the house, which is like our equivalent of cable. And that was, of course, broadcasting WWF as it was back then, weekly. And from there, I was hooked. It was record the show overnight, watch it the next day, talk about it at school. Just a lifelong addiction that I now am very fortunate enough to be able to make a living out of, which is crazy.
You ain't lying, man. My goodness, because you, I, how do I want to ask this question? As somebody who has watched the golden era, as they've called it, to the new generation, to the attitude era, to whatever the hell WCW was doing during that time period at the end, to where we've led to now, has it made you appreciate being a wrestling fan more, or has it made you, because I know the one thing is we've noticed that so many fans have become so fickle in how they
Yeah.
become too. How does that sit for you on the table?
I think it's definitely made me more grateful and kind of accepting of a broad range of different wrestling styles and eras and companies and wrestlers and everything else. I always say that it's within, if you're covering wrestling, I think it's a great position to just be a sponge for everything and to build a frame of reference that goes all the way back, all the way forward, and encompasses as much as you have the time and the will to get through. And I appreciate not everyone wants to sit there like I do and watch Japanese indies that have 50 people at the show or whatever. But you pick and choose depending on what you like and what you don't like. But for me, yeah, that broad perspective, it helps a lot. I think that if I had restricted myself to just one company, like to say, for example, I broke in with WWF in 1992 and I only watched WWE all the way to the modern day, I think my perception of what the sport is would just be really skewed and quite limited, because there are so many different styles and companies and different things out there. There are so many different flavors of wrestling, and you learn what isn't for you. And I think when you experience it all, and when you watch it for as mind-numbingly long as I have, you accept that some things just aren't to your taste. Doesn't necessarily mean they suck or they're bad. It's just not for you. It's for someone else. Like I like all kinds of different things, man. I like I like classic ECW. I like Ring of Honor, the glory days of that. I like the golden era. I like the new generation era of all its stupidity and the crassness of the attitude era. And I like, I can watch DDT. I can watch the blow up doll match with the giant panda and all of
Yep.
this stuff. A lot of people, not so much.
I draw my
Yeah,
line at beaver cleavage.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
That's
I mean,
about where I draw my line, right?
I think that's a very fair line, and I would not argue with you one bit. But yeah, I definitely think it's helped me stay appreciative of the sport for sure.
Okay. And with WrestleMania, of course, it's WrestleMania season. Everybody knows Roman, Cody, Usos, KO versus Sammy. But with the Hall of Fame itself and the transition of how that has become, even just from the late 90s to now, where it went from like a gala to Bret Hart getting attacked in the middle of a ring, it's transitioned quite differently with it. And with this year's nominees, we'll say, or headliners, if there was one or two for you where it's kind of left field but makes sense, who would you want to pick?
Oh man, that's so interesting, because it often feels like they just burn through names with this stuff,
Yeah,
and then they throw in like I really feel sorry bringing the guy's name up because he always gets picked on when it comes to the Hall of Fame. But then they throw in like Coco Beware, like mid carders
yeah.
and stuff to pad it out, and it's like, oh my goodness, who have you actually got left? So like, you've obviously got big ones like The Rock and Triple H and people like that, and their day's gonna come. But for me, it would be super interesting to see them like expand the Hall of Fame to like a truly broad spectrum of wrestling as a whole. I think it's really cool when, like, this year they're putting the Great Muta in, which I think is sick because he never wrestled for
Yeah.
WWE, but he was prominent in WCW for a long time, and he's obviously a legend of the sport. His best work comes over in Japan. I think I'd love to see more like that. I'd love to see them just go all in and induct the four pillars of all Japan: Misawa, Kobashi, Taue, and Kawada. Why the
Right
hell
there's
not?
Liger. Next to
There you
Cody's
go.
stuffed animal, right there is Jushin Liger. So I completely understand with you on that.
There you go. NXT
I
legend Jushin Thunder Liger, of course.
Yes, of course, with his banger against Tyler Breeze at NXT.
Yeah.
Come on now. And for me personally, Limp Bizkit. Why has
Yeah,
Limp
why
Bizkit
not?
not been in their Hall of Fame? They play Crack Addict at WrestleMania. The
Yeah.
title alone, you got away with that? Go in the Hall of Fame. Go in the Hall of Fame.
And the greatest video package of all time, lest we forget. Limp Bizkit, My
Yes.
Way. There we go. Like,
And Fred was in a couple games. Like,
yeah,
why?
why not?
At this point, who you got Kid Rock and Snoop Dogg in there. Let's throw Fred Durst in there, even though we don't have a physical Hall of Fame yet, which I actually want to do ask you about. With the Hall of Fame and becoming more of a physicality, as you see with the WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble shows that they have, do you think that WWE should have a stationary Hall of Fame at, let's say, Connecticut or Florida, or should it be more of that Antiques Roadshow style Hall of Fame where it travels to the big events only?
Oh, that's a really interesting consideration. I'd never really thought of the idea of like having this like roaming exhibit that you set up
Yeah,
around WrestleMania and stuff. But I think that's a cool idea for sure. I'm really into the idea of having a physical Hall of Fame.
me too.
Be it in like Connecticut or Florida, like you say. I would just want to visit that as a tourist. Like I would give them my money, and it's something they can monetize as well. It's like how are WWE passing up the opportunity to make some money? It's silly.
Yeah, they make money every other way. Why can't they? Like, you just get to go in and see Yokozuna or Dusty Rhodes' things just by going to the WrestleMania or the Royal Rumble store.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be so sick. You could have the exhibit, obviously, with all the wrestlers. You could have a giant store. You could have like a theater set up where they show classic matches and classic events and stuff. Yeah, like to me, it's a total no-brainer. I don't know why they haven't done it, to be honest. Like I would go out of my way if I was in the United States to go to that. And I imagine a lot of wrestling fans would be the same. So yeah, set it up,
Yeah,
man.
I see no reason why they can't. Have you been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland?
Never ever.
Okay, so it's built like a giant glass pyramid, and every level is a different era of music. Why can't we do something like that for pro wrestling? And you can have a New Japan or an All Japan, WCW, Ring of Honor, even. What if Tony allows that to happen? Let's say, and you can transition it through different kind of eras and have whoever's the headlining WrestleMania act, like Batista, let's say, have him be that top story or that Bruce Springsteen level for that year, and then rotate it every year.
Yeah, I think it's a
I
great
think that would be
idea.
brilliant. Just
Yeah.
come on, Triple H. I know we're a busy man, but come on, Triple H.
Add that line to the spreadsheet and get the money rolling in. Come on.
Yeah, put Lauren Ice on that one, buddy. Won't be any more layoff, pal. So when it comes to getting, like you were saying earlier, making a living off of being a wrestling fan, as you and I both are at our cores,
Yeah.
how did what culture come about for you?
Oh man. So yeah, like it's really strange that I'm in this position when I think of my previous like jobs and stuff. So like I was kind of aware of what culture was probably around 2015, 2016 when the channel when the Adams and Jack and Ross and Sam and everyone started blowing up on YouTube. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I wasn't as hardcore into wrestling as I have been like I was on kind of a lull period, but I was still appreciating the sport. So finding those videos was really awesome because it's like, oh, these guys really know what they're talking about. They're funny, they're enthusiastic. I can spend 10 minutes watching this and get all this nostalgia popping. This is really sick. I was in a really miserable job at the time that I'll spare the gory details in, but it was a finance job and I wasn't really happy with it. And things like that on YouTube were a nice little escape. So, they were among my rotation of channels that I'd watched, and I was always aware of it. I knew they had the website as well with the list-based articles and everything. So it was something I just kind of casually enjoyed until in March 2016, I found myself unemployed. Unfortunately, through, just some financial nonsense within the company that I used to work for. And I went onto the website one day and I saw they had a careers page at the bottom, and I was like, "Well, okay, I'm gonna, I've done a little bit of writing in the past. I used to write as a hobbyist. So I had like an Italian football blog. I'd written for Bleacher Report briefly, doing football or soccer coverage. So I had a little CV there. I had a little body of work, and I saw they were recruiting for writers, and I was like, okay, well, I don't expect I will get anywhere with this. I imagine they get hundreds and hundreds of applications. I'm just going to try. I'm going to throw the Hail Mary and see what happens. So I sent a couple of samples of my work, Well, during this period of unemployment, not expecting to hear anything back. And to my surprise, I woke up and I had an email in my inbox the very next day. And I was like, oh, what? What? Is this fake? I had to
Hi.
do yeah, I had to do like the double take. Like I was checking the domain on the email address, and but no, there was the CV that I sent. There was the email that I sent. I had a 3-day trial. I got offered the job on the second day, and that is pretty much it. So it's quite interesting, though, because originally I was brought on. Soccer coverage was something that What Culture was trying to get into at the time, and I was brought on to do a bit of that, to do a bit of music coverage as well, which was another thing we were trying to expand into, and to do a little bit of wrestling. And I was just going to be a writer. I was just going to create lists for the website that would then be turned into videos and everything else. And it just kind of snowballed. I worked from home for a year, writing only. I moved down here to Newcastle in 2017, so a year after I started. One day, about a month later, my boss just said, "Hey, do you want to try video?" And I was like, "Sure, pal." And here I am today. It's just been really strange. My kind of golden rule through all of this is that whenever an opportunity arises, whenever the chance to do something new comes up, just say yes and see what happens. So I did the video, and I did a podcast when I was asked to, and I did a 2-man video with another host, and all of this stuff, and now I'm here, and as of November, I'm suddenly the channel manager. It's just a crazy thing overall that I count myself very lucky, because it's a high application industry, and there are very few people who are fortunate enough to be able to make a living off of their fandom for pro wrestling, especially. It's kind of a niche form of entertainment. I know millions and millions of people watch this thing every week, but it's not the NFL, or it's not
Yeah.
music or whatever. So there isn't
It's
a
not
single
even the
day where.
Premier League. Let's be real.
There you go. There you go. So
See, I
like
pay
there isn't
attention.
locked in. So there isn't a single day of my professional life where I don't wake up and go, wow, I'm so lucky to have this job. But yeah, that's how it came about. It's a really unusual path. I'd always wanted to get into some form of media. I always thought it was just a little bit out of my reach, and then I stumbled in upon this, and it's a strange world, but it's a world I love inhabiting.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, as somebody who's gone to a lot of shows, as you have, I have, to see the people at the events and seeing the camaraderie and seeing that it doesn't matter who you are, what type of life you're from, what you go through, everybody's welcome there as long as you're not a tool. Because I was at Forbidden Door 1 last year, there was a whole like brawl right in front of me in the next section over. Like, just don't be that guy. Don't
Yeah.
be that guy. Other than that, everybody loves you. And to see, the people of all different worlds and countries and lives, to see them come together at just a pro wrestling event, whether it's Forbidden Door or War Games or WrestleMania or whatever it may be, it's bigger than a niche within a niche at that point, because then you're making a different kind of social connection, even though it's within sports entertainment or wrestling or whatever people want to call it anymore, depending on what company you work for. But it's beautiful to see how that's kind of expanded in fandom, because us growing up in the Attitude Era, you had to be Team WWF or Team WCW, and then there was, of course, the Bingo Hall extremists over here that not a
Yeah.
lot of people knew about. To watching now and seeing the fans that are watching and seeing them enjoying, Stardom and New Japan, and knowing who Kazuchika Okada is, and doing their research to find out about Muda and Katsuhori Shibata. Oh my God, Shibata! My God, oh my God, that was so bad. We're gonna cut that part too. Uh, but to see the way that it has become such an elegant environment for people is something that's really needs to be remarkable, because when you go to, of course, Premier League or NFL games, there's always that warfare type feel.
Yeah.
There's not that everybody coming together. Even though you might not like Roman Reigns, you might be a big Cody fan, it doesn't matter, because everybody's there for the experience type of situation.
Yeah, exactly. And like I think to when my like fandom was intensifying as I started like getting older, and I was like, browsing message boards and forums and things to try and find other wrestling fans to communicate with. And back then it was so small, these sites, compared to like social media and Reddit and things that we have now. So there are so many ways now for wrestling fans to just find each other and make connections. It's really awesome. For all the bad eggs you might have on various platforms who try and spoil the fun for everyone else. Those people, once you figure out how easy to ignore they are, it's no problem.
It's beautiful.
It's wonderful, man. The mute button is it's a wonderful thing. But yeah, it's so sick. Like I can sit there and I can watch like a DDT show, and I can tweet about it, and 3 or 4 people are replying, go, "Oh yeah, that match was so awesome," blah blah blah. And then I can talk about something that happened on Raw the night before, and a few hundred people might take note because obviously it's a bigger show. It's just really cool to be able to connect with such a diverse range of people with such diverse tastes. And it's great that wrestling is so accessible now as well, because it means you can cultivate those tastes and you can share it with people. And yeah, the phrase it's a great time to be a wrestling fan gets thrown around a lot, but it truly is. I think that if you can't find something to like in modern wrestling, or like a group of people that you get on with and want to share things with, you're just not looking hard enough, or you're being silly. One of the two.
I mean, yeah, you ain't lying there, especially with the way that this network works and the amount of people that work, like I was telling you off air with us. They completely understand we're a bunch of rapscallions within it. So as we start to kind of turn and change the conversation and start to slowly bring it back to the end, I wanted to give you more of a rapid fire type of question and just tell me like the first couple of things that come to your mind about these people. They can be good, bad, or indifferent though. I'm kind of setting you up, but I'm just spouting the names off the top of my head at you on this one.
Let's
So,
do it.
number 1, Chris Van Vliet.
Oh, wonderful angel of a man,
He is.
amazing at his job. Would love to shake his hand.
We've actually gotten to have conversations with him, and we've had him on the channel here, and he's helped us out a lot, especially myself behind the scenes. And you should look at doing this, and if you tilt your cameras this way, or if you have it doing like that, just those minor little
Yeah.
touches. Chris has just been a wonderful human being for that, on top of the bar that he's set for everybody in his own way too. Um, let's see, Muhammad Hassan.
Oh, wow. Unfortunate performer, uh, who probably still gets a lot of crap that he doesn't deserve. Bad character, ill-advised. But the guy behind the character is probably dealt with a lot of crap that he shouldn't have over the years.
I would agree. Let's
Yeah.
see, Ryback.
Oh,
Oh, we're already on the same page. Andy and I just became best friends.
close personal friend of the channel. Wink, wink.
He hates you guys as much as he hates me personally, and I'm not even kidding when I say that.
Oh, he hates you too.
Oh, he has a personal disdain for me. This face he
Oh
wants to
man,
beat the shit out of.
what did you do?
So I had done a video. I'll send it to you. Actually, I can't because it was blocked and removed because of Ryback. Uh, I don't like the way that he was doing his videos and the way that he approaches his podcasting. And I did a video on TikTok where I was just like, you kind of come across like the Alex Jones of professional wrestling. And he did not like that. Uh, so he did a video commenting, and he duetted my video, and everybody got to see, as you're dealing with a blackout, everybody got to see him duet my video and verbally respond to me. And him and his followers are sitting there talking crap about me in his comments, whatever, because he didn't think I'd see it. I commented back and I was just like, "Hi, I'm the guy. I have no fear. What's up?" He he responds back with, "I'd love to have you on my podcast this Friday." Oh, I would be honored to, sir. It would be an honor to talk to you about how I feel in person. He told me to email his team or all this other stuff. I'm like, we're talking right now, brother. We're talking right
Yeah.
now. Let's book a time. Give me a time. I'll make myself available for you. That's something I learned from Chris Van Vliet. You get the time availability and you make yourself available, good, bad, and different. He blocked me. And then
Wow.
and then the very next day on his podcast talk shit about me on his podcast.
Oh man, what a deeply silly individual. And you know
Like, he
like
didn't like me calling him a potato either. He did not like that.
and you know that he hates us too, right? And you know what the sad thing is? Dare I say it? I actually kind of liked Ryback. He was stupid and he kind of sucked. But I'm a big Goldberg guy, so I was kind of into that. But oh well, we have a mutual enemy is a strong word, but we have a mutual big guy that doesn't like us, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. It just makes me laugh to know that I made such a I rattled his cage so much that he had to talk about me multiple times. Because I've had the good people that have talked about me. Last year Pat McAfee talked about me on his show, to Ryback talking shit about me within a few months of that. So you get the good and the bad transitions. And that brings me to a good question that I want to ask you. We'll get back to the questions that I was asking before, but we had the Bullet Club issue that What Culture had back in the day with Simon Miller and things like that. To see how has building those relationships, good, bad, and different, with wrestlers behind the scenes helped develop the growth of your what you guys have done.
Oh man, it's that was so that was so wild. The Bullet Club thing around,
I'll
yeah,
never
around.
forget that punch.
It's crazy, man. Like around Wrestle for anyone who's maybe watching who didn't catch that. Yeah, around WrestleMania 35, they held the Bullet Club block party just beside the venue, and after some back and forth with Tama Tonga in particular, we decided to show up. I specifically didn't decide to. I didn't. I wasn't there. I
You were a
was.
smart man there.
Yeah, man. I heard Haku was going to be there. I was like, no, brother, I'm not going. So I was there. I was in New York, but me and Michael Sidgwick and Chris Thompson from the channel, we were like, nah, brother, I'm leaving. I'm not taking part of that. But yeah, it's cool, man. Like we don't do like a massive amount of interview based content and stuff like that. I think there are people like Chris Van Vliet in the space who are just so great at it and like really own that lane that we don't really do a lot of it. Sometimes we do. We've got some really funny stuff across the board, but yeah, I love working with wrestlers. I think people will call me a mark for this. I don't care. I love it when a wrestler who I really enjoy like ats me on Twitter and shares a joke or whatever and goes blah
Yeah.
blah blah. Thanks for the support. I love stuff like that. It's just kind of an acknowledgement that for all the trolls and the weirdos and the freaks and stuff that you get, people are watching and enjoying what you do. So yeah, like working directly with wrestlers is something I'd love to do a little bit more of now that I'm in this fortunate channel manager position. Maybe we'll be able to explore stuff like that. But it's always a blast when we do. And yeah, check some of the interviews our guys did at Wale Mania last year. We've got some fun interactions.
You guys have really just watching, because I've been watching since just before the pandemic. I started watching with you, especially in the morning, and you and Simon Miller. I would just split between watching your show and then I would watch Simon's show, and seeing just the development. I noticed it this morning watching Simon's show, of seeing how a couple years ago the background and the CGI effect and just the way that we were doing this, to now he's got produced by Phil Chambers at Phil My Chambers underneath, which is still the best Twitter handle I have ever
Yeah.
seen in my life. And I will forever compliment that man for the best Twitter name possible. And with it, I want to get back into asking you the questions of the first names as we wind back down. So as we start winding down, Simon Miller.
The nicest, most wonderful man alive. He is every bit as what's the word I'm looking for? Exuberant, joyous, kind as he comes across on camera. Nothing about that man is played up for the camera. He's genuinely a dream. And I wish he was in the office so I could work with him face to face more often. That's the only downside with him. But Simon rules. He's the best, man. He's the best.
It's so great to see how he's expanded his life over the last few
Yeah.
years, and not even just dipping a toe in pro wrestling. He jumped balls deep into pro
Yeah.
wrestling, and to see him, his physical growth, his comfortability, and seeing it not even just in the ring, but seeing his comfortability grow even just as we're
Yeah.
talking. And it's so just damn proud to see. Even as somebody who's just a fan of what you guys do, it's so great to see somebody get more and more comfortable in their own shoes as they go. And like you were saying about, the development for yourself becoming the channel manager recently, how do you take the mega power sorry Hulk Hogan and Randy Macho or Randy Savage, but how do we take that mega power and move it forward under the Andy H. Murray banner?
Oh man, it's been quite intimidating for a while. Because having a team of people who I work with now, and they're my colleagues, but also technically now I have to kind of tell them what to do a little bit, and it's weird, and it's been a strange adaptation for me. Kind of growing into this role has been a case of trying not to meddle with things too much, because what we do clearly works, and people engage with the stuff that we put out, the lists, the news, the editorials, the ups and downs videos. People connect with those things. So my approach to this is to just go smoothly and softly, not to completely revolutionize the face of the channel and scrub away everything and replace it with stuff you don't, but to slowly introduce things bit by bit. And I think you'll see a lot more of that over the coming months as we settle into a nice groove. But for me, this job has been made so much easier just by the team. I mean, it sounds like I'm blowing smoke, and obviously I'm complimenting these people who are tremendous at their jobs, but it's the truth, man. Like, they just make it so much easier. So like, the whole team across the board, from the video editors, Phil, Adam Nicholas, Ben Roy Turner, Ryan Nicholson, everyone who edits videos for us, to Michael Hamflett and Michael Sidgwick, who you don't see on camera as much, but do a lot of the writing. They know more about wrestling than most people have forgotten about wrestling.
You ain't lying there.
Yeah, man, they're just a library of knowledge. They're so invaluable to the channel, to Adam Wilborn, who I obviously sit with every day, to literally everyone involved, to Gareth and Cy and Jules when he stepped on. It's just, they make my life so much easier because they've got so much creativity and so many great ideas, and they're not afraid to tell me when I'm talking pish, which is a big part of it. But nah, it's a bit more pressure than before, obviously, when I was just a video guy doing what my boss told me. Now I'm trying to get people to do what I tell them. But no, it's a collaborative process, and it's fun. It's a little bit scary, but I feel like the team's moving in a really great direction at the moment, and it's all because they're just so great at their jobs.
Now, what I'm about to say to you is going to come across like it's a backhanded compliment, and it's not meant to be backhanded at all. It's all meant with goodwill. What I love so much about the episodes I watch with you and Adam specifically, and I know I'm going to come across very backhanded in this, is he comes across to the screen to me so much as like Beaker from Sesame Street, that it's just or, and then he'll do all the extra pieces where it's just like, man, I feel like you just kind of help guide him along the way, and it's so awesome to just kind of watch that relationship and that friendship. But you can use that every time you look at him from here on out. If you see Beaker, I'm so sorry from here on out.
Hey, well, some would say I look like Bunsen Honeydew, so it's kind of perfect.
Oh no,
no.
oh, no.
No, I think that me and Adam is like, it's kind of like a perfect on-screen pairing, right? Because he's wilder, he's louder, he's more animated, he's a bit crazy.
He's the king of the mic.
Yeah, man, he's the king of the mic. He's got all the gimmicks and stuff. And I'm maybe a little bit more grounded and a little less, physically amped up and stuff. So I think that's why it works so well. We bounce off each other really well. We've been doing these partnership videos for like 5 years now. And like, we're great friends in real life as well. Like, I would not have been able to get through the pandemic if it wasn't for that man, who lives literally about 5 minutes from my house. We'd meet up and go for a walk in the park, us and our respective partners. Probably responsible for keeping me from going off a cliff during the pandemic for that reason. So
God
yeah, I
bless
love
him.
that man, and he's incredible at his job. But yes, he does look like Beaker. I agree.
And Adam, if you see this, I love you to death, man. I've emailed you to try and get you on. Andy was the first one to respond. I'm sorry. I love you. My emails are still open. So I wanna wind this down because I know it's starting to be more of the evening where you are here, and I want to thank you so much. Not even as somebody who enjoys the channel, as somebody who kind of co-leads things within their channels, but even as somebody just. You've been so wonderful to contact with and email with. And even earlier today, with the whole daylight savings mix up between America and the UK right now, all I could do is just shake my head and laugh at it because you've been so amazing to deal with. And every bit of how great I thought you would be is exactly how you've been. So I thank you immensely for that as a friend and as a man. A million thank yous for everything and helping us and being a part of this with me.
No, thank you for having me on, man. It's really flattering to be able to come into other people's spaces and just talk for a little while and speak about wrestling and media and all of that fun stuff. It's I don't do a lot of these things. I I love jumping on them every single time, and yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks. That was a wonderful outro, as wonderful as the intro. I'm not
Not
worthy of
bad
those
for off the
words.
top of my head.
No, sincerely, it's the best thing in the world when somebody wants me to come onto their platform, and because like I still see myself as like, who the heck am I? I'm just some guy who kind of stumbled into a cool job and has tried to make the most of it. So um any little bit I can do in trying to help bring people together, I guess I'm all in.
I appreciate the hell out of you, my man. More than you know. More than you know. So on that note, thank you guys for watching this. For myself, for Andy H. Murray, the legend himself. The H stands for a handsome son of a bitch. I don't care what Adam Wilborn calls him. Thank you guys for stopping by, hanging out with us. And Andy, it's always, like I told you before in the emails too, it's been nothing but a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, man. Likewise. It's a shame we couldn't make this happen earlier, but I'm glad we finally did.
Hey, we'll just do part twos. It's okay. We'll have two, three,
There we
four. Not a
go.
big deal.
There we go.
All
The
right.
trilogy. Why not?
Exactly. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful night. Bye bye.